him. He's the backcountry guy and trail guy up there for years. He's a two-term SEAL from Vietnam. Massive guy, great guy to have on a river trip. He actually drug, this was down a lot lower, and he actually drug it by himself up to a higher spot in 83, 84, and now the Park Service has chained it to a rock so some nut jobs don't try to get it in the river and float down with it. So they would be killed. Next shot. And this was a spectacular set. We about out of time, I guess?
You're at an hour? You're okay.
Should we stay another? There's only a few more slides.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is one of these sites where, like I said, it's not usually like Raiders of the Lost Ark. But sometimes it is almost like when you find stuff. And we were, our little crew, like I said, we started this survey for the Park Service in conjunction with the Environmental Impact Statement in 1990. And the park farmed out all of the biology, all of the geomorphology, and all of the hydrology. But they kept, wisely, Jan also kept the archaeological project within the park. But they only had one archaeologist, so she contracted out. We just became term park employees while the survey was going on. And we had 5 boats, 4 crew boats and a cook boat. So there was, we had, each one of us had our own little boatman, and then 3 of us in a boat with all of our gear. We did it from through the whole year. We started one summer, right through the winter, walked the whole canyon. We found a lot more stuff than I would have bet. In fact, I lost a big bet on how much stuff we find in the river corridor. We were confined to the historic high water zone, we call it. We found almost 500 archaeological sites just in the flood zone. But that was over a 250-mile stretch, but a lot of stuff. And including about 50 historic sites from before 1950. And most of those were either known about or relatively known about because of oral traditions or people going down there and out of these same places and camping. But this was a site we found below Kanab Canyon that we couldn't believe. And each one of our crews, there was 3 of us in each crew, and the river's not as dangerous as walking on the shore. Most people get hurt on the, we were up often like 600-700 feet above the river just to get around to the next spot. So we, if there was 3 of us, one would be down by the river, one would be on the ledges above, between the flood zone and where they could get to, and then one person we would call went high as they could get, just to check for stuff. And we were going along those only movie he would never speak of again. It was 10 Who Dare, or something. It was about Paul's expedition. He would fire people that brought it up to him. It was so bad. But they actually made it down to the canyon. And I said, yeah, but they didn't leave anything, And he said, I've got a movie site up here. It looks like a movie site. So it was just on the ledge above me. So we went up there and was like, wow. And it was a gold mining camp that was exactly the same way it had been left in 18 whatever. So we were just ecstatic, It was just unbelievable. And this was a redo. We went back there to monitor it in 95. We found it in December of 1990. And so we spent about an hour and a half there because it was our last day of a 21-day trip. It was the week before Christmas, and we wanted to get the hell out of there because it was blizzarding on the rim. And so we spent an hour there just recording this stuff in case you couldn't get back. We might not be able to get back. So we could figure out, even on the original site form, I'm kind of proud of this to this day, that it was a site between 1871 and before 1880, just by the stuff on it. We could tell. And no forks. It was before people used forks to eat. For the older folks in here, your grandparents only ate with forks when they were young on special occasions. And the great-grandparents, they had forks for Christmas, Easter, baptisms, and funerals. Otherwise, they just ate with these wide blade knives and big spoons. No forks on the site. Homemade cups out of cans, and these wicker scoops for their gold. They had milled boxes, shaker boxes that were homemade. They drug up into this ledge. And these were scoops for it. They were made out of Powell's boat. We didn't figure that out till later, but he abandoned in Kanab Creek the year before this in 71. And we know from the colors. And those boats were never found down there. That's because John Riley and his 2 gold mining partners, there was no saw-cut wood in Grand Canyon, before 1890. This is saw-cut wood. And they had a little saw, and they cut up this boat and turned it into rocker boxes.
Wow.
Sapling handles. And how we found out what this site was, when we come out of the field, all the people in charge of crews or specialists got assigned stuff to do, right, for report. So Pete Bungard did the rock art and the lithic stuff. Terry Samples did the ceramics. Helen Fairley did the overview and that stuff. And I volunteered to do the historic stuff because I like it. I just really like it. And so when I was reading these thousands of pages of diaries and books ad nauseum, and which is very fun for me, I came across an entry in E.O. Beeman, who Helen would know. He was the Powell's photographer on his second expedition down the river. And they got along not very well. And he quit on him one day and decided to head down the river. But Beeman was friends or made acquaintances with John Riley, this gold miner, and told him when he left he'd give him his, it was some kind of amalgam in there. I don't know if he had mercury for his plates or what. But he dropped this off. He dropped this blue bottle off at the camp when he left Kanab Creek in 1872. And he made this entry in his diary that he'd stopped just below the riffle at Kanab Creek on the left bank at the gold mining camp of John C. Riley and Company, who were not present, and dropped off this bottle and headed down the river. So that was one of these little golden Spartacus moments, that never happens in our profession. That we could pinpoint an actual event to a human and then, corroborate it with a written. So that was a fun thing. And then every year we'd come back on a monitoring trip and photograph these places to see if the Park Service management was really worried because we had boatmen on this trip with us, right? And within 2 days, we weren't even, we got off the river, but by the time we got back 10 days later, well, not 10 days, the next month because we took a Christmas break, every boatman and their uncle knew about this site. It was supposed to be top secret. So the Park Service was scared it was going to start getting launched out of here because these rocker boxes were pristine. I mean, you can't even find these things reconstructed this thing. And all of their stuff, there was hangers on the rock with clothes hanging on them. Oh, wow. Unbelievable. And so we went around and around and around about, should we haul all this stuff up to the south room so nobody will ever see it again? Which is not my method. Or leave it here. We all said leave it here. I kind of have that Indian way before I even worked for them. Just leave it. We'll take some precautions. So what we did was, then the law enforcement wanted to put motion detection devices there, so they could take it. What are they going to do? Come down there with a Cobra gunship from the south rim, 108 miles away? What are they going to do? So we came up with this passive-aggressive way. And at the time, we had all kinds of cameras and boxes down there in the river that most people didn't know about, monitoring erosion. We take 1 or 2 pictures a day of places we were concerned about eroding too quickly. And so I said, let's just put one of those boxes across the river with nothing in it. And then we'll put a little sign up here where the trail that goes up to it. Because see, once people start going here, you can see the trail from the river if you're paying attention. You can see that it's a human social trail to the spot. So we put a little sign over here on a rock that said, be warned. This has a motion detection camera. And then we had a little wire that you could see. It was just an 8-foot piece of wire that ran under a rock from the dirt. And then people would start looking around and they'd see this box across the river. So that's all it took. Nothing's ever been taken. Next shot, please. And cheap, too. No SWAT teams, no heavy equipment. And this is another really interesting thing to me. This is way, way down in the west end, past mile 200. Right across from a feature that you may know or not know about called the Pumpkin. It's kind of mildly radioactive spring that's on the other side. That's over the years has turned into this bas relief pond of like a giant round stalagmite, stalactite thing. It's the shape of a pumpkin and kind of orange color. All this warm, mildly radioactive water. So they say. And this is on the other side of the river from that, about 112 vertical feet above the river. This nut job miner, or we think it might have been Harry Ailson, just this wigged out World War I pilot that was trying to escape civilization. Because there's no mining tools on this spot. And it's really far from anywhere. You'd have to get up from below in a really good boat or hike in from East Bejesus over here for about 6 days to get to this place. And this guy spent days building a place. You can see the slope here. It ranges between 25 degrees and